G'day guys, today's episode is with Matt Schramer. Matt is the founder and director of Australia's or Queensland's fastest growing buyers agency, the Schramer Group. In today's episode, we unpack the principles that have led him to be not only successful in business, but also as a professional athlete. I got so much out of this episode, particularly his habits, the habits that give him energy every day, the habits that keep him focused. And there's also an equation in there, which I think is really going to be helpful for you if you're in business or if you're in sales. So get your coffee, gear up for this episode. It's a good one. We talk about discipline. We talk about all of the things that really manufacture success in business and in sales. And we get a few little sales tips at the end from Matt. So enjoy.
Oh,
Very close.
Oh, Matt.
Jesus.
That was close.
Good.
That was close. That was very close.
He's a sharpshooter. He's a sharpshooter. He's had a big month.
Matt Schramer, mate, it turns out you can hit your targets.
Hey, darts. I haven't hit the dartboard probably since grade 12, I reckon. After party at one of the graduation, I think. But I've been getting into golf. So, mate, I had the same mentality. I was just like, look, I'm on the green here. Just let the club do let the dart do its thing.
Let the dart fly. And mate, it was very close.
It flew, and mate, as I said, I believed it. I just had to make it happen. So, mate, and thanks for having me as well. I'm super pumped.
Great to have you on.
Excited.
So, I wanted to start with professional athlete turned business owner, and you're in sales. Obviously, every business owner is in sales.
100%.
Walk us through the journey from, athlete to how you got into your current business and maybe just explain, what you do.
Yeah, I guess in a snapshot, like from the age of 5, had a goal of playing professional rugby league. I was that kid that wore the jersey in bedroom, got warmed up in there, went out the backyard and pretended it was like a stadium packed out. So I had that envision ingrained from like 5 years old from family. My brothers played, my dad, all that sort of stuff. And then fast forwarding, obviously the grind of life through school, all I cared about was trying to make it pro. And then, mate, there was a few hurdles during my teenage years, but eventually, made my debut at the Gold Coast Titans in the National Rugby League. I think I was 19, turning 20 a few years ago now. But, mate, I pretty much achieved that dream. Amazing, in the moment, playing professional sport as a young 20-year-old, doing amazing things, flying to different places, training every single day. Lots of ups and downs that people don't realise with professional sport, but obviously loved every minute of it. And then, mate, got it cut short, unfortunately. So I had a few injuries, 9 surgeries all up in the space of probably 3 years at the back end of my career. Unfortunately, I had envisions of playing, well into my 30s minimum. And unfortunately, at the age of 26, medically retired through a few injuries. So really, really tough period. Throughout my period playing footy, invested in a property, loved real estate as well. Wasn't blowing my money at Sin City nightclub at the booth and stuff like that. So
you must have been like the 1% that wasn't doing that from the Titans.
Yeah. And had some good role models at the club actually. And put it towards property, loved property on the side. So when that medical retirement loomed over me, the resume was empty. Like, what do I do? And mate, the only other thing I had any interest in was real estate. So that's how I ended up in the real estate industry. Worked as a sales agent first, really enjoyed it, good habits, and then transition. I've seen a huge blue ocean of the buyer's agency industry starting to bubble up. So as a sales agent, obviously representing the seller, I've seen a need for buyers, and then, mate, the rest is history. Made the plunge, had no business experience, and started the Schramer Group smack bang in the middle of COVID, and have a look back since. So it's been a fun journey.
That's awesome, man. And massive challenges, I guess mentally, not just physically, but mentally, sort of leaving professional sport and then getting into something which, business, or real estate, getting into the workforce. And where is the Schramer Group now? You've got a pretty large team. You've had crazy growth. Like where are you guys at now?
Yeah, it was good. So launched myself out of my bedroom in Palmy in back end of COVID, 2020. Well, pretty much 2021 was probably when it started probably. I had a secure job prior to that. So in between doing real estate sales when I knew it wasn't for me, I just quickly transitioned out 6 to 12 months of just jumping back into the footy industry, coaching whilst I worked on developing the business, I guess. Had no clients up my sleeve and I just cut my salary. I thought the only way I'm going to make this work is if I put my back against the wall. And I just knew it was going to work. So yeah, cut my salary. I just said, hey, I'm leaving. I'm starting this random business, buyer's agent. No one knew what it was. And started that, COVID. And then pretty much every 6 months, I sort of realized the energy game. So my time and energy was always utmost important. So I started leveraging, I guess, labor and people and starting to grow a team. And fast forward, we just ticked over 3 years now. So there's 10 of us all up, including some support staff. But yeah, so it's been a fun journey. And if you were to tell me 3 years ago that, I'd have my own business, being a buyer's agent on the Gold Coast with a team of people, it would have been like, it just seems so far away back then, but it's just crazy what can happen if you have a crack.
For sure. Yeah. And like having seen you and watched it grow, it's quite phenomenal. And your reputation around this part around the Goldies is growing. It's, mate, you guys are doing really well. And I guess one of the things I wanted to also, I guess, explore is the parallels between, professional sport and business and sales, which is really the theme of this podcast is sales. But how have you found, your approach to sports, and I guess how has that impacted your success in business, and what parallels can you draw between the two?
Mate, I can to add some value to the potential listeners of this podcast. I'll give you two different parallels. I guess the first is like helicopter view, and then I'll touch a bit on the sales, because I heard you say sales there, and sales gets a bad rap, but I see it always as the transfer of enthusiasm from one person to the other, right? And I'll touch on sales in a second, so bear with me. But on the parallels of sport and business, what I've identified, I've literally got an equation for it, and I've called it the corporate athlete equation. So I've got some keynote speaking gigs coming up there. So it's got to be my thing, the corporate athlete.
I love it.
So I've broken it down, and I've just identified there's so many parallels, Chris. It's not funny. And what I've identified, it comes down to this. It's as simple as like, think of an equation, right? And I think it firstly starts with energy. So the parallel between sport and business was that the best they always started at their energy. So in the locker rooms, man, I remember there was a lot of guys who were at the top of their game, but they'd always be in there early. Like they've got the little esky and they've got like good food. It's all packed in, ready to go. They're on the foam roller early. That, you know what I mean? And I just talk to them and they're just ready to go. But it all started with their energy. Like they went to bed early. I don't know. It was just all those things. And I was like, I thought it was all about what happens on the field. But what I noticed with them, it was like the top 1% of the players I played with, they were always prioritizing energy first. So I think that's where it starts in business too. And I spend a lot of time like yourself as well. Like, you know me, like I spend a lot of time refining my routines, because in all of the routines transfer to just energy. I always use the analogy like a battery cartridge, right? Some people have got 4 slots for the AA. Why not have 12 slots? So I'm always thinking, how can I expand the amount of batteries we can put in? Because the person with 12 slots of AA batteries is going to outperform the person with 4. Like it's just, it's just got to be
100%. 100%.
So yeah, that's kind of where what I've noticed, the transition always started with energy.
With energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With energy. And then if you put a plus symbol on that, what I noticed was focus. So energy plus focus. And what I noticed with the best in sport was they were very focused people. Like they kind of knew their role. They didn't, but if they were a 5'8" or half, they'd focus on what a 5'8" and a half would do. Same in business. Like you get people who try to wear all the hats, right? And what I noticed, the best in business, they're really focused. They don't get shiny object syndrome. They're just, I think we're living in a world now where it's not about being more focused. It's about being less distracted.
I love that.
You know,
So true.
that everything's taken our attention at the moment. So that was a huge mindset shift for me. I was like, the best, they seem to always just stay focused. And then if you plus that with priority, I think that was the first part of this equation that I noticed was, again, in business, the best have good energy. They know how to focus and avoid distraction. But then out of the list of things to do, they understand what's priority and what's not. Because again, if we go back to the energy side, if all your energy is going towards the wrong thing, you know, it's really hard to move quickly from A to B. So energy plus focus plus priority was the
Equals performance.
equal. Well, it can be equal, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I know I sort of put it that equals result,
Results, yeah.
right? But this is the and then what I really noticed, Chris, there was nearly like this I call that like the top 20%. So if you hit those three, I feel you're doing well.
Yeah, you're cultivating the state, and that's something that I think the difference. I guess the difference between a sales job or business, being a business owner, and I guess just a role player or an admin clerk is that business owners and salespeople, like athletes, you're measured on your results. You're measured on your outcomes.
Very true.
And you often get paid on your outcomes. You're not being paid for your time. You know, a lot of commission-only sales reps,
Very true.
business owners, you're not getting an hourly rate.
Yeah.
So you have to work and cultivate a state of high performance because you measure on outcomes. And I think, that's the same in sports. You're going to get paid for your time because you're on a contract.
Yeah.
But your career is really measured in outcomes.
Yeah.
And so I'm always fascinated with that. And I think the cultivation, I don't think it just happens. I think a lot of people expect to wake up, or they wake up how they wake up. They wake up in a state of, and it's interesting. You think your equation starts with energy, goes to focus, goes to priority. Physically, you got physical, mental, and emotional in that creates a state, and then a high performance state versus a low performance state. Most people, I'd say 99% of the population, they leave that up to chance. How you wake up, how you're feeling good, great. You're feeling shit, but most people are not taking proactive measures to cultivate a state of success or a state that's going to lead them to successful outcomes. And I think in sales and business and sports, you have to be so deliberate.
Yeah, you got to be deliberate with increasing your battery cartridges.
Okay. That's I'm going to use that one as well.
Yeah, you have to. And what was crazy, Chris, what I noticed was like that's a bit of a formula I noticed for the to get that top 20%. But then there's always these people who I'd call like the top 1%, right? And then what I identified and noticed, and I peeled it back, I was like, well, what are they doing differently to the 20%? So we got that equation where they're crushing it. But then there's this like next piece that are just like, they're doing abnormal things. Like, it's like, well, how did that happen? Or again, it's not by chance. I feel it's like they're deliberate in what they do. So if you attach that result right, and now we're going to apply like some multiplication to it, I feel the last piece of it is like, you grab that result from the first, like energy, focus, priority equals result, and then grab that result, and now we times it with firstly discipline. I think what I noticed the best footy players do, they're so disciplined, man. Like temptation is left, right, and center, and you see it all the time, right? Some footy players, great athletes, they never stay the long haul because they get themselves in trouble or something. Like, you just got to stay disciplined, and
Happens a lot.
all the time.
Yeah, and then as an outsider looking in, you're like, how you know, you've got such an awesome opportunity. Like, how did you make that sort of decision? How did you make that error?
Exactly, and that's what I mean.
Like,
It can
it's
get them.
human.
I played with so many players that had superior talent. Like, I'm talking superior natural ability, and they could have got a lot further if they were more disciplined. And that can come in forms of with their food, with their personal life, with their time, with a lot of things. Like, I remember some players were not like, I hope they wouldn't mind. I'm not going to name names, but they weren't that like naturally. They weren't fast. They weren't naturally gifted. But what they were was they always had their food ready. They didn't waste time chatting BS with the boys all the time. Instead, I seen them on the field, they're practicing left to right passing. So they were just disciplined, and I noticed they always outweighed the pure talent people. So same in business, right? There's a lot of distractions and things. Can you be disciplined to do it?
Absolutely.
And then the very last piece is grabbing that and then timesing it with consistency over a long time horizon. So can you just do it for not a day, not a week, not like, could you do what you're doing now for a decade? And it just keeps showing up. And again, I look at footy again. Some of the guys I played with had amazing careers, 10, 12 years, mate. They were not special. They were just like, they always shown up, but they always just had to go, got injured. They still showed up to rehab. It was just like the consistency.
And then you see the talented players. Some of the talented players would try to get by on their talent.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's what I mean. The last two, like timesing that result by discipline and a consistency over a really long time horizon, I think just gets you in that top 1%. Like in business, right? Me and you, and even salespeople, right? Like the ones who can work the craft and do the reps. And how many calls would you have to do to get to the top 1%? But how many no's would some of these best salespeople have gone through? Like
insane.
Just insane.
It's insane.
Like
and
just consistent.
It's not glamorous as well. Like, and it looks from the outside looking in, like for someone who sees a real estate agent or a salesperson, and they see the flashy cars, they see the suits, they see all the social media posts, and it looks glamorous, but the work that's taken and the rejection that they've had to face, and like you say, the consistency they've had to put in. A lot of that is the 1% of the stuff that they do is actually reaping the rewards of their success, but then it all comes from that foundation of, like you said, consistency over a long-term perspective, I think. And it's pretty unusual to have that, all of those things that you've laid out.
Well, you sort of see it even like in real estate, right, or sales. Like everyone hears the word sales and real estate. Like there's only a real top % that are earning like extreme amounts of money. And that's what I mean. You can get by career-wise there, but if you want to get to that top 1%, I feel that consistency over a long time horizon is really, really vital. Like some of the best salespeople I know in the industry, man, they've been at it for a good decade, 2 decades worth of continually showing up. Because again, anyone who wants to get in this industry, not only real estate or sales, you better be prepared to take rejection, right? But can you show up, be disciplined to get up the next day and learn from your mistake or keep crafting? But could you do that for a whole? Could you cop no for 12 months straight potentially? Like I don't know. Like a lot of people give up. I remember when I was in real estate sales, Chris. This is a funny story. I sat at this desk, and next to me was like a hot desk, right? I had 6 different people within 12 months sit next to me, in and out.
It's so common too, isn't it? Real estate. You always hear about the revolving door in real estate.
Crazy.
Because people want the result.
Yes.
People want the result, but they don't understand what it actually takes to get that result.
Literally.
And it's not pretty. It's brutal.
And the key thing, I'm hoping that equation just shows it's not rocket science either. Like, I was in pre-vocational maths, and I've just put together the equation of doom, right? So it's not rocket science. So energy plus focus plus priority gives you that result, and
Gives
then
you the result. And that's a top 20%.
top 20%, and then I feel to get to the top 1%, we apply discipline, and then lastly consistency over a delayed time horizon.
Well, let's unpack that, because that's one of the things I was really excited to get you on today was because of the state cultivation, high performance athlete, now in business, killing it, and build a successful team. There's no, it's not by accident that you've reached the top tiers of sports, and then you've reached the top tiers in business. And it sounds like the fundamentals of the success in both sports and business for you have been with the equation. So if we start with energy, what sort of things, whether it's tactically principles, what does energy mean to you firstly, and then how do you cultivate a consistent, your 12 battery pack with your energy? What do you do, and how do you do that? And also, how could a salesperson or someone who's in sales or business, what could they do to maintain that high energy?
The reason I love starting with energy first, again, to add value to salespeople too, is that you will get rejection. And in business and real estate especially, there will be something that rocks your day. Proper rocks your day.
Absolutely.
Rocks your day.
Every day.
Every day. Yeah, and that's the thing. People don't realize. It's like every day there's something. If you're not in a good state of being, it rocks you harder. And I've been one, maybe I've missed a session or for whatever reason, I didn't get the best sleep. It just rocks you a little bit harder than when you're in a good state. So that's why I've honestly believed, and it was the same when I was playing sport. When I had a good sleep, ate well, had my habits, I was sharper at the end of the day. So it all starts there. So I guess if you talk on habits wise, I always break it down like there's your physical, there's your mental, and there's your like emotional IQ, and then there's spiritual as well. And I feel all four of those generate energy. And physical for me, the usual suspects, just exercise, just move. I'm really into like wellness now, like the whole world at the moment, it seems to be the buzz. But yeah, I love ice baths, saunas, all that sort of jazz, just to get that peak state of being. So physical's really number one. Like I prep all my food every week and eat pretty well Monday to Saturday. Again, getting good nutrition.
And when you say pretty well, I mean, I'm sure someone's pretty well is going to be different to yours. Like how disciplined are you with your food? Is there like no sugar? Is it like low carb? Like is it high protein? What's the...
Yeah, and this goes back to, right, like I look back 5 years ago, I was eating really well, and now I'm eating really well. It's just different perspective on what really well is, right? And I'm always thinking, how could I add maybe another battery cartridge to my artillery? So like, for instance, I used to eat always healthy. I never had takeout here and there. And then it moved through like eating more natural produce and stuff. So like, instead of the spinach from, Woolies or whatever, it's like at the markets kind of thing. So moving through that, and now it's like, where's the meat coming from now? So it's just kind of evolving each time. But yeah, nothing basic, nothing out of the ordinary, like good protein, fats, carbohydrates, all those sorts of things. I eat frequently throughout the day. I don't do a vegan, carnivore, keto, whatever. I love food. So, but yeah, I always find when...
What about booze?
Booze? No, I actually don't drink too much. I'm not against it at all. I'll have a wine every now and again. But again, I'm sort of thinking, well, what state do I put myself in on a Monday if I had a big night Saturday? I'm getting older now too. It might take me a week these days, even all.
I think two for me, two weeks, and like that's a principle of mine. And the reason why I ask is because I think for energy, you can put batteries in, but then you can do things which reduce your batteries as well.
Love it.
And so you're either pushing your batteries forward or you're pulling them back with everything that whether it's a training or what you're eating. And I think for me, I was never a problem drinker, but it was social and
Yeah.
and then the occasional big sesh, and then rocked for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then you're emotionally wobbly.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
things really rock you.
Yeah.
And if you're in business and sales, you can't afford to put yourself in that state.
Yeah. And it goes back again, right? People can still do good things, right? But again, that if you want to be that top 1%, that 2 weeks you're probably not as sharp. The top 1%, they've surpassed you.
They've lapped you.
They've overlapped you
Yeah.
because their energy, they aren't drinking. Like,
They're not doing that.
yeah, they're not doing that. And that's why it's key to surround yourself with good people too, right? Like, I barely drink these days, but a lot of people in my circle don't either. Like, my social battery isn't filled with boozy nights. I can fill it in other ways, and I actually never got anything out of it. But I'm all about having fun too. So, it's all around, like, people want one thing, but then they aren't willing to let go of another thing potentially. So, that's that kind of, I guess, energy, like the physical sort of side. But I think a big one now, Chris, moving into like the generation we're in, is emotional, and like that emotional kind of energy, making sure that battery's looked after, because I'm doing a lot of meditation. I've been meditating for the last 8 years, and I did it when I was in sport, but I didn't take it serious. And now I think if I was how I can meditate now back in a sport, I would have been a 10 times better player. And the reason's this: again, days will rock you. You may make a mistake in footy. You may have a really bad phone call, something happened. That ability to go from a sympathetic state to a parasympathetic state, I think, is like game changing. And that time between the two, I think, is where it's at. And that's why I love looking after emotional health and like meditation and stuff, because I can feel when I'm getting in a sympathetic state, which, look it up. I'm not going to give you a definition, but it's that fight or flight.
Stress, fight or flight. Yeah.
Fight or flight state.
Then all the blood sort of drains from your brain to sort of to your extremities, because you're about to go sprint or fight.
100%.
And so your responses are a lot lower responses. You've don't have the ability to think things through.
Yes.
You're between the stimulus and the response, there's no, like an animal, you're almost
and where I felt, just to add value to the particular listeners of this podcast, could be, I felt a lot in my career change in the last 12 months, when I feel sometimes if something didn't go my way, or a phone call to a prospective client that went left field, I feel that feeling, and then I've tried to nearly like go against it. Whereas now I feel myself in maybe a heightened state, or like I disagree with that, but now I won't verbalize. It's like breathe and relax, and then I've actually made better dialogue off the back of it, because I'm in a more relaxed state kind of thing. And I think for salespeople, now that I'm aware of that, I hear it a lot more in other salespeople where, they might be faced with an objection and they get real tired and the tonality changes, and then it's like, I'm desperate for your business. So what are you doing?
You can blow it.
You're gone.
You're needy, desperate, and you lose your composure.
Yeah.
I think that's so important as well. Like
100%.
Energy, and then the mental clarity to to hear the objection, but then to respond in a way which doesn't.
Yes.
It doesn't sound like you've been emotionally rocked, because it's a sign of weakness, really. If you, the discipline to discipline's not just behavioral discipline; it's emotional discipline as well.
Yes.
It's having the ability to display the emotion that you need to display that at any given time. So when you get an objection, even if you don't like what you heard, maintaining emotional composure is discipline.
It's huge.
The discipline to not get triggered.
Yeah. And as you know, like more than anyone, like a lot of sales is that transfer of the enthusiasm, but it's also like people can read the non-verbals better these days. And like a lot of it isn't actually what you say, it's how you make someone feel. And I've noticed the best salespeople, like they're just very relaxed, like their tonality's sharp and clean, and it seems like time's slow. So that's how I've incorporated, I guess, that energy piece on controlling the emotion, and where that has transferred to answer your question in, say, even like sales. I think it's been game changing.
I love that. Time is slow because the same is with sports. You know, the best, they seem like
When the
everyone else is moving slower.
Yeah.
I mean, everything slows down when they've got the ball, or you know, when they picked up the club.
100%.
Like Woods.
Yeah, 100%. Feel it with my golf too now. It's really feel my grip tightening up.
Oh my God! I mean,
relax.
Golf and sales and golf and business. The parallels between golf and business and state management. Like state management in golf is
It's everything.
and having the emotional self-discipline to just, you know, play a bad shot, not let it impact the rest of your game.
Yeah,
You know,
it's huge.
it can be downhill. You hit you rock up to the first tee.
Yeah,
You shank it. The rest of the day's gone.
done. Yeah. So you're actually right. Yeah, it's similar like sales people. They've just had their first call of their 30 connects, and their first one's just an absolute shambles.
Shocker.
Rocked.
And then can you just wipe the slate clean
Get on
and
with it.
show up with the next one, or are you letting that bad call bleed into the rest of your day?
Yes.
And then one bad call can turn into a bad day, which can turn into a bad week and
Bad month, bad quarter.
Bad quarter.
Yeah.
Because energy, again, and state management is deliberate. And, we need to be a bit more deliberate about it. So also, you mentioned focus. So you got energy, which, energy in, and the inputs, the training, the nutrition, the meditation. What about for the focus? So focus was a big one for you. Like what? Because I agree that distractions in business and distraction in life is puts you off track. And if you get distracted in sales, it's whether it's on the phone or just in general, like you're supposed to be prospecting, but you're on Instagram or you get a no-show to your call. How fast can you adapt to go, all right, well, I know exactly what I need to do next, or I'm focused, or do you go get a coffee? Are you sort of, and then you've burnt your hour, you burn half an hour. What does focus mean for you? And then how are you sort of achieving a high level of focus?
Yeah. First thing I always think of when someone talks around focus, I think a lot of people apply a lot around like getting, like, I wish I was more focused, right? Whereas I think the game is become less distracted. So a really easy one is, what is distracting you, and can you remove it as a step one? Like, and that's it. And I think if people did that, they would win back probably 2 hours of their day, hands down. So what I've identified, for instance, as a key add value to people, where I started was I don't have any notifications anymore unless it's a phone call. So everything's got a ping now. It's crazy. It does my head in. Some of my team, I tell them, turn your notifications off, because that thing is going to distract you. Like, you don't have to get back to that person straight away. Like, you just don't. And one thing I'm really noticing with the next generation of millennials is this, that they bounce a lot, left, right. They're talking to one person, then they're going there. But that's very normal behavior from their upbringing. So a lot of them are bouncing from job to job to job, and shiny object syndrome, new business idea, e-com, service-based. Like, they can't just sit still. So I think
it's normal now.
It's normal.
It's normalized.
Yeah. And so that's what I think. Just don't worry about being more focused. And I think it's just like, try and cut out distraction as a pure, that will solve 80% of the problem, I think. So just small tip, like, notifications off. I realized that I don't have to get back to everyone straight away, and I'm okay with that. As a people pleaser at heart, sometimes you're like, I should get back, but you don't. Like, who said you have to get back? Like, at the end of the day, my time's...
So that's why it took you a day to respond to a message yesterday?
Well, it's a good, and not just you, but it's a lot, unless, it's something super urgent or like, again, I'm okay with that. I sit okay now of like not getting back to someone straight away, and I will get back to them, but it doesn't have to be straight away. So that could be one side of it. Again, like avoiding distraction and little things like putting the phone out of a certain room. Like if I need to do some deep work, I'll put it on do not disturb and then put it in a drawer. So I can't hear it, let alone I can't see it either.
It was I had a business coach who he's from the old school, and this guy, super successful dude, and this is many years ago now, but he came from, there were mobile phones around when he built his business, but it wasn't, all the world's information is stored in this one little brick that we've got here now. Yeah. So it was more like the Nokia, brick Nokia, you can make a phone call.
Yeah.
And we spent some time in the office. He came to my office, and I had to get some work done. And I had my phone next to my desk, and he's going, "Man, what are you doing? Give that to your admin. Get that out of your, get that out of your sight." And he was massive on that, and he was back in those days. You didn't have phones. You could just you just got work done. You just did work. You did what I mean. You had the corded phones. The telephone rang. I mean, it's also helped business obviously to have these devices, but it can really hinder things as well. I think with the amount of day you can waste and the amount of time you can burn just through scrolling or changing from WhatsApp to SMS to Messenger. It's almost like you're like a little caged animal, like going around the same apps. Habit loop. You just just looking at this app to this app to this app to this app. But I like the notifications.
Yeah,
just know. I do it to probably a lesser degree. I still have notifications for messages and WhatsApp and I think it's sound advice.
Yeah. No, and again, everyone's got their own things and whatnot. But yeah, I think that could be a good place to start. Just find where your distractions are going and try and cut it out, because again, everyone and everything is easily accessible now, which has its pros, right? But then on the negative, it's like, I can text you right now, and I can call you, and it's funny, you'll just say that coach back in his day, it was a lot harder, right? And he got work done. But it's funny how society shift our...
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. If you want to get in touch with us, go to the Closers Dojo on Facebook. This is a Facebook group, free Facebook group for anyone looking to sell or build a sales team. We do sales trainings in there. We share a lot of resources. I'm sure you'll get a lot out of it.
Gratification has to be instant now with everything, and it's like, I see that with business too. Like people think it just happens super quick and you're going to earn a lot of money.
Instant gratification. Instant gratification. Like you said before, you talk about long-term perspective. If you think about that, it's not normal to have long-term perspective anymore.
No,
we're thinking about immediate. What can we get now?
Yeah.
Where's the immediate payoff?
Yeah.
But so a lot of people have the short-term perspective in business, in sales, professional sports. But it takes discipline to not get the payoff, to stay the course, to make the dials, to do the work, and not see the immediate payoff.
Yeah. Yeah.
What when you spoke about discipline before, which I think that's a big one, like discipline for sports. And I know you, and I see how disciplined you are, but I've heard about discipline being a muscle, because the thing is that sometimes it can seem, if I'm sure it seems to a lot of people that discipline is something you are either born with, or you have, or you don't have it.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at EQ, emotional intelligence, part of it is self-awareness, and part of it is emotional self-control and regulation, which is, if you look, it's discipline, and that's a skill. And so, if you think of discipline as a skill, that means you can train it, you can get it. It can become stronger. So it's like a muscle.
Yeah,
you can train the muscle of discipline. So, what for you? Like, what is there anything that were you just born like extremely disciplined? Is there anything you feel like you do that enhances discipline or weakens your discipline?
I love how you said discipline is a muscle. I couldn't agree more, because I challenged someone. I heard it a few weeks ago, and they're like, I'm just not a disciplined person. So they identified themselves as not being disciplined. So their identity is saying, I'm not disciplined, so it's okay for me to not be disciplined because that I'm living up to what I tell myself. So if anyone's listening, just you are what you say you are, firstly, but secondly, it can be trained 100%. And Jocko Willink always says it like discipline equals freedom. And when I first heard it, I was like, that's a bit full on. But I get it now. I actually get it. It's just, it stems like a lot of your success lies on your strength of your discipline muscle. So just like any muscle, you can train it. And this is where, to unpack your question, I think people start at different levels of the muscle. Just like, I remember when I was in like grade 2 and some of the kids were already had 6-packs. And I'm like, how do they, like, some people are blessed at the get-go, right? I think that a little bit with discipline too, based on your surroundings. So for instance, I may have had a head start to some of my peers when I was younger because, you know, I had 2 immigrant parents, you know, Philippines, Poland, had nothing. I grew up in Western Brisbane, you know, so they just worked hard. So it's ingrained in me from a get-go. So and that's probably why I got to where I was in sport too, because I was used to it. But as I got older and, you know, had to get to that high level of NRL and then starting business, it's like, yeah, you have to flex it all the time. And, yeah. So, and then to answer your next question, so that answers like, are we born with it? We're not born with it, but our surroundings may enhance it. So, but can you improve it? 100%. And I think the easiest way to flex your discipline muscle is just like any muscle, right? You got to train it. And I actually got a story like over the weekend, and I put it on Instagram because I was like, it was like one of those moments. I was like, so true. Like it was Saturday last week and it was pissing down rain here on the sunny Gold Coast. I reckon it was pissing down.
Mike, it has been since Christmas.
Yeah, I know. And then 5 o'clock hit, alarm went off. Saturday morning, easily could have slept in. I usually go to do some swimming. And anyone knows me, I'm from Western Brisbane. Like there's a forest, there's a lake out there. There's nowhere, I don't swim. But swimming is one of those activities where I thought about, why do I love it so much? And I'm rubbish at it. I'm not that great of a swim, but I do enjoy it. And the reason is it's super uncomfortable for me, really uncomfortable. Like it's just, I get really puffed. Like my technique's probably, I should get some coaching, but I love that I get really out of my comfort zone with swimming. Didn't want to do it. Had every excuse. It was raining. It was not sunny. It was cold. It was actually pretty cold. I don't have to go there. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm going to flex. That was the flex. Started my swim. Did a K in a bit. Finished. I felt unreal. And the reason was obviously the endorphin hit and stuff like that. I knew what was on the back end. The hardest bit of that whole 2 hours was going to the pool.
Was getting there.
Yeah. And that
as soon as you jumped in,
fine. Did one lap and then you're on. So I use the analogy that was me flexing the discipline muscle. I really did not want it. And I could have made every excuse that I wanted to. And, you know, yes, there's times where it's like you listen to your body and stuff like that. But that was one of those moments I was like, there's no excuse for me not to go. I know it's good for me. I know I'll feel good after it. Just flex it. And then I did it. Felt amazing.
And it gets stronger.
Yeah.
And I think the opposite happens as well. So when you give into the weakness, there's a weakness inside of us that wants to not get up and go to the pool, or that doesn't want to pick the phone up. You know, that doesn't want to make you $150 for the day if you're on the phone. That wants to get on the piss. You know, that wants to do the thing which is going to give you that short-term gratification, but it's all ultimately going to take you away from where you want to go. You know, so that can be a muscle as well.
It's exposure to it too. Don't be afraid to expose yourself to hard things as well. Like I haven't missed a cold shower in 7 years, and like I just love it. Because it's like it's never easy. It's never easy, but I see that little short hit every morning is like, yeah, I won again. It does get easier. It doesn't mean it's easy though, but it has gotten easier. And again, the reason I do it, obviously there's a lot of chemical things that it does for your brain and that, which I love, but to be honest, I do it because it's uncomfortable.
Just a win.
It's just a win, yeah.
But the thing is about Queensland, the Queensland cold shower is very different too, because I'm a Tassie boy.
Yeah.
Coming from my parents' place with the tank water, in minus 1 degree
Different
overnight, and then you've got the cold water coming from the tank.
Yeah.
That's a different. Yeah, the Gold Coast cold shower almost feels warm.
That's in summer it's easy. Like I'm Queensland through and through, and but in winter, I'm like, oh, this is cold. But yeah, you're right. I remember I went to Queenstown, and I still don't miss my habit even when I travel, and that rocked me. But like loved it.
Oh,
Queenstown was just hectic, middle of winter. But yeah, to go on your thing, it's just find little ways you can flex it. I think because it can be trained.
it can be trained.
Yeah.
You've built a team. So if we just look at your business now, you built a team, and in the past, I think for myself, before I learned how to sell, before I had a method, when I was just selling, I was in fitness, and when I was just selling my own services or selling, what I did, the transfer of enthusiasm was pretty much enough to get a deal, and product knowledge. People bought me, and so I'm assuming a lot of people just buy you. How have you duplicated yourself with your team? And do you have other guys selling at the moment?
Yeah. Some of them, obviously, we've got some contractors, some employees, but a lot of our team are also buyer's agents. So obviously, to work with a buyer's agent, you got to trust the person you're working with, right? So there's plenty of times where obviously I'll be selling the Shrama group and the benefits and stuff like that, but also that I can't do all the meetings, and we've got some amazing buyer's agents now. So they're getting their own clients, which is awesome to see. But yeah, they're doing selling every day too.
How do you, what practices do you guys have, or what have you done in your business to help and empower your team to sell themselves and to sell your service?
I think the biggest thing we've been focusing on, because we're all really passionate about it, I guess this word of like transferring through and sales, so to speak, the biggest mindset shift we've been trying to implement that I think has really helped us is understanding you don't want to work with everyone. You don't have to. And finding your true self and who you connect with is like, there's some people you're not going to be a fit for. And it's nearly that, I think, dropping that scarcity mindset, like, no, I want to get them signed on so I can make extra money or whatever. But that comes at the detriment of, again, your energy, your emotional IQ, because they're stressing you out. Like, yeah, so that's been a big one. Just knowing who you are first. Like, don't try to be Jerry Minor. Don't try and be Andy Elliott. Like, be you, and you'll attract people.
People are going to buy that.
By you. Yeah. Like that. Don't try to be someone else. I think, Danzy, that's what we've, I guess, from a high level, trying to implement. Like, we're all different personalities, so we attract certain people each. So don't try to be me. I've learned that very early. Like, that's how I do it. Doesn't mean there's a framework, but you do you. I like you because of you.
I like that, and I think what you said before about making offers to people who maybe aren't a fit just because you want the money. Like, nothing will drain your energy. As we spoke about energy, nothing will drain your energy more than making offers to people who are not qualified.
Or not. Mate, I'm glad you said that. The biggest thing that has changed the business in the last 12 months is working with qualified people and not wasting time on non-qualified people. And that comes into first time you chat to someone, you need to be able to qualify appropriately. And I think I made the mistake early on, didn't take too much work on trying to learn how to qualify better. And I'd find myself either wasting time.
So you'd be you just take someone straight to a sales call or a sales meeting.
Yeah, when early days.
Qualification process.
Yeah.
Sitting in front of them, pitch the business.
Yeah, it's like someone's inquired, I got to tell them what we do. Whereas now, we got a 4-step, like, it's just, because I've realized time and energy is super important. So again, with the equation, it's got to go to the right people, the priority side. Like, I'm not going to chat to someone until they're qualified or ready. So, yeah, I'm glad you said that, because that has changed a lot, being able to qualify.
Well, you've got a robust process, which I've had some insights onto. I've seen what you do, and you shared a bit about it. But so it's the qualification side is a huge part of now your sales process, and so that you guys preserve time, prioritize the people who are more likely going to benefit from your service. What steps are involved in that? Is it a survey? Is it a call? What happens when someone's not qualified?
Yeah. This is a big one as well, just going on that. Like, I always think of like a doctor, right? Like, I think the best salespeople always prescribe the right thing, whereas rookie salespeople prescribe anyone with the same thing. They pitch, yeah.
They don't prescribe, they pitch.
Exactly. So they don't actually even listen to what this... Because some people, I'm flat out honest, like, I can't help. Like, I can't help you. Like, everything you're saying, and like, I don't think we're going to be a fit, and like, I don't want to take your money, because we're not going to add any value whatsoever to your circumstance. So having that mentality, I think, has been number one. So process generally is, obviously, we get inquiries and stuff from all sorts of angles, but they'll always fall into like a first contact call, so to speak, which I'm training a team member now she's been doing really well. I'm handling some of them for me, because that's offloaded a lot of time and energy that I can focus more on the next phase. But if we step back a few months, yeah, I'd be doing them. And just, again, putting the agenda away and just being me and asking questions.
Having a chat.
Because I learned this from a really gun speaker, and he's a really good salesperson. And he learned off John McGrath. And he asked John McGrath, mate, my listing presentation, he was a sales agent, my listing presentations, I want to get them better, blah, blah, blah. This is my process, blah, blah, blah. And John McGrath, he's sitting like this now, and he had no notepad, no nothing, and just like listened to him. And then they revealed, and he said, what I just did to you is what I'd be doing. And then this agent now, he barely even brings a little toolkit or anything. He just he said all of his best listings have come from when he's just listened to the person and try to think like, actually, yeah, no, I could probably help that. Tell me more around that, and trying to like, so they're properly listening to the person. So I've changed up our first contacts to be less, there's a framework, but a lot of it is asking a question and then listening actively, not listening and I've got my next.
Not listening and thinking about what you're going to say next.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of letting the intro happen, and then the call will take care of itself, kind of thing. So that's really what's helped a lot. And
I think that's so key. Yeah, because I think people get caught up in the script, they get caught up in the techniques, the tactics. Yeah, they forget. Really, people can see that a mile away, and unless you're so drilled with it, unless you've been practicing in private, so that when you're in front of the it's like, how many times did you train your pass?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you just go? Do you get your pass? Yeah, you learn how to make a pass and wait until the first game and go try it, or do you do 1,000 of them?
Yeah.
At the park, and then get on the field.
Exactly.
And it's there's a great quote by a guy called David Sandler. He the Sandler selling system.
Yep.
And it's, if you didn't bring it, you ain't gonna find it here. So it's like, he's got a story of he was playing golf, like all great salespeople, and he had a game of golf, and he turned up a bit early to go to the driving range just to get his eye in before the game, and he was there maybe an hour early, and he was hitting his pitching wedge, he was hitting his irons, got his driver out, and I think one of the guys he was playing with came 5 minutes before the game, rocks up, saw him at the driving range. He said, David, if you didn't bring it, you ain't gonna find it out here. So if you If you didn't bring your experience, your technique, your I guess competence, you're not going to fight it. An hour before the game,
the actual battle. Yeah.
No, so and it's never practiced in front of the prospect.
Love that.
And so you're almost better if you don't have a process. You're almost better to just be yourself and to just listen and to just try to match what you're selling or I guess your offer with the needs of the buyer. And I think a lot of the times if you have like in your business, it's got a great offer. You got a great offer. It solves problems. All you need to do is find the problems and find people who have the problems that you solve, and then match the offer. But then of course, like if you can learn how to sell and have strong technique and have it will elevate results. Yeah. But there's that little awkward part in between where you're consciously competent. You go from unconsciously incompetent to consciously competent, to unconscious competence. So unless you're unconsciously competent with a process, it's clunky. Yeah. So you're consciously competent. You're thinking about what you're going to say next. You've got a script. You're awkward. You're awkward, and people feel that.
And that's always going to happen too, right? Like everyone has to go through that. And one thing me and the team are always conscious of are like the reps, because the only way to move through those phases you just said, like to get from conscious, unconscious competence, is just the repetition of doing it. Like there's no other way. You got to do the work and fail and learn and understand and those things. So, you pretty much nailed that on the
reps.
On
is
the reps.
Repetition is the mother of skill. So,
yeah.
Mate, final wrap up. Any tips for someone looking to get into selling, or business? More so, I mean, all business owners sell, but any tips for anyone who is looking to transition into sales or looking to transition into business? Like, what's the one thing that they could focus on? What's the one thing that they should be looking to do?
First things that come to mind, number one would be learn how to communicate. Like, I don't think people put enough emphasis on how to talk to someone. And me and you can sit here and someone can be like, what do you mean? Like, I can talk to someone, but tonality, nonverbal, body language, like they're all parts of communication. And it's less on what you say, it's how you make someone feel. And Jeremy Miner is a really good example. I love his stuff because he does a lot of like the human psychology side of things. And a lot of it is the nonverbal stuff, like your pauses and where to attach pauses so you can actually listen properly. And so that would be number one, is learning how to communicate.
Learning how to be an expert communicator or strategic communication.
Just understand you could have the best dialogue, like ready, artillery full, but if you don't know how to play with your tonality or things like that, I think that could be just a start. And then probably the thing that I really love and I've been working on personally is becoming a really good problem finder, not a problem solver. So someone may have one problem, but with the right questions, can you let them understand that they've actually got three problems and I've got a solution for your three problems, rather than what I used to do was like, tell me your problem, I've got the solution.
You solve it straight away.
Which is totally cool. But I've noticed a really good salespeople, tell me your problem. Cool, I'm going to just unpack that a bit and listen. And I'm going to ask a few more questions to understand a bit more about you. And then it turns out they've got three problems. So as any good salesperson, it's not tactics and that sort of stuff. It's like you actually want to help this person diagnose the three problems that they have rather than the one. So I think that's something.
That's where you turn a problem into pain.
Yeah, exactly.
And increase the awareness just through unpacking.
Exactly. So,
what's one problem? Like, I mean, just tactically, one thing that you do with your, like, a question, or I guess a series of questions you ask just a normal prospect in your, someone who's a buyer. Well, what's a
Yep.
typical problem that you're coming up against? How do you and what questions do you ask to sort of unpack?
One of my favorite, just to apply to any kind of, I guess, pain, or when I hear a problem, is like, just tell me how that makes you feel. Like, tell me, like, why is that a problem for you at the moment?
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, so a problem is
So
like we're not finding
lack of off market.
Yeah, well, we just keep missing out. Like, I'll get to this strategy at a second, because I know that's a problem. But like, why do you keep missing out? Like, why is that impacting you and Jimmy's life right now so much? Like, because I am curious, because if it's a state of like, we've had clients where they've revealed like, we need to find something because we've enrolled Jimmy into St. Hilda's, like, in 3 months. Like, we need to get in there, and like the impact of him not starting school is a lot bigger than not finding a house. It's their kid not starting school. So for me, it's like I have more motivation to help them now and make sure me and the team get it done, rather than just like we want to find something. So I think if that kind of makes sense, so it's just applying like
you're understanding the consequences.
the consequence. Yeah,
of not buying.
yeah. And I'm not doing it in a way where people can feel if you're trying to lead them with, I'm going to lead this question on so I can come in with a close or something like that. That's that thing I learned from the John McGrath. He just kind of will listen and just be like, well, if I can understand their problem a bit more and come up with better solution for them, it's not only going to solve them not finding a problem, but it's also going to solve the problem of Jimmy, making friends from day one rather than waiting till term 2, stuff like that. So, just call it like peeling the onion back. Make sure you're asking your questions and
Get around understanding.
Understanding, yeah. And the only way that comes is being a good listener. So you got 2 hours, 2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason, right?
Love it.
Should listen more than you speak. Yeah.
Matty Shrama, mate, it's been awesome. Where can people find you on the socials?
Yeah, just Matt_Srama. The team's at the Srama Group. And yeah, any way I can add value to the community. I'm really passionate actually around doing a fair bit of training and speaking now with the buyer's agency industry. I think it's one of those exciting industries that's going to be coming leaps and bounds, but I'm really passionate about making sure the industry keeps it a good standard, right? Because it's not about transaction. It's around you're helping someone find an actual property, right? So it's an important one I'm really passionate about. So yeah, man, it's all part of the journey, having fun, and man, I'm excited to see what you, Shani, and the crew do too. Like, so it's big ups to you guys. Been following your journey. You're crushing it as well.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming on.
Mate, thanks for having me.